South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
and
Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig on a Tuesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We have a lot to get to on the Eagles as the aftermath continues. Also, we'll talk about the state of the Flyers as they are back in action tonight. Kevin Durso, our Flyers Insider, will join us because the Flyers are a dumpster fire. Kevin Hayes is going to miss a few weeks. He just had surgery. Seems like the Flyers are pretty much just trying to get through the season at this point, try to salvage what they can, and then hit the reset button for next year. So we'll ask Durso about that coming up tonight here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Also, we'll get back to some of you guys' thoughts and comments throughout the show at 609-403-0973 on the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. We are live also on YouTube at 973 ESPN. And one of the conversations that we kind of started yesterday that we can bring back into today is what should or shouldn't the Eagles do this offseason? And I'm going to get to that as well a little bit because I'm seeing a lot of people, whether it was messaging in the Game Night last night or whether it is a couple different things, say some things about the draft that we're definitely going to have to get into. Also, we'll get into the latest on the NFL coaching situation because, you know, Gannon is interviewing for 3 openings, and it feels like almost every team is interviewing everyone at this point. So we got to get into that as well. But like I said, I want to continue with what we started yesterday, which was I saw a lot of people commenting how the Philadelphia Eagles need to, with their draft picks, go get wide receivers. I am so against this. I don't even know if I can contain myself. And I understand a lot of you guys out there tend to be the person who gets enamored with things, okay? You see the new car, you see the new phone, you see the new whatever it is, and you immediately want it. The problem is that just because something looks good doesn't mean it's worth it. Look, you were very fortunate that this Eagles organization walked out of the last few drafts with Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins. Now you want to go back into the draft and go get a guy like Alabama's Mechie or Williams coming off of injuries? You want to go into the draft and go get a guy like Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave when some people believe that, you know, Olave and Devonta Smith are basically the same player? I'm not interested in that. I've said it once. I've said it twice for 2 weeks now. I'll say it a million times until I'm blue in the face, which is ironic because I'm wearing a dark blue shirt. But anyway, they got to get veteran receivers. This organization has shown you that they have the ability, as of right now, as the team is currently constructed, to go out there and make the postseason. One of the biggest problems in the game on Sunday versus the Bucs was when Hurts was not throwing to Devonta Smith. The other guys you were throwing to either couldn't catch the ball or couldn't run a route properly. You fix that problem not by drafting another rookie receiver who has to learn the offense and learn the NFL and build up his body and get up to speed. No. you're going to have some cap space. Why don't you use that cap space on something that is going to be immediately useful? That being a receiver. Now, there's positives and negatives. There's pros and cons. All these guys are going to be available, right? Whether it's Allen Robinson or Juju Smith-Schuster or trading for a Calvin Ridley or whoever. There's a lot of positive and negative with all these guys. But the reality is that all three of those guys, and there's others as well who will be available, whether it's purely as a free agent or a guy who's part of a salary cap dump release or maybe a trade that we don't know about yet. As long as it's not Julio Jones, because that seems like he's just going downhill physically. His body's just not the same as it used to be. But whoever it may be, all those guys have something that every receiver in the draft doesn't, and that is experience. You can't ask year in and year out a young quarterback with a young offensive coaching staff to keep having to figure it all out. It's bad enough that Sirianni at times asks his quarterback to bail him out. Why don't you give him the ammunition to be able to bail you out? Again, I'm not against Mechie, Williams, Wilson, Olave, Pickens. I don't have a personal problem with any of those guys. And I think, honestly, probably most, if not all of those guys will be good, if not better than good, NFL wide receivers. But it's beyond time that this organization use free agency or a trade to address the receiver position. The last time you got a legitimate name receiver was Alshon Jeffrey on a prove-it deal, and you went on and won the Super Bowl. Now, I understand some of you out there will be like, yeah, but they gave Alshon another contract. Look, the organization did what they did originally. And I know some of you hate Howie Roseman, so you won't accept this as I say it. The organization, not Howie, the organization made a decision that they had a window of opportunity to win. That's why Alshon and all those guys were re-signed. Now it's a different mold. Guys like Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Calvin Ridley, they're not old like Alshon. Now, they're a little injured. That's a concern. But they're not old. I mean, if I remember correctly, I'm going to double check it right now. But I think Juju is like 24 years old. He's 25. I was a year off. Okay. That's really not old. And the guys have already had a pretty darn good NFL career. How old is that? And Robinson's got to be what, like 29 now? 28. He turns 29 for next season. So he's not even 30 yet. Okay. And then Calvin Ridley, he's probably the same age as Juju. Maybe a couple years older. 26 turning 27. All right. So you have all these guys who are in their 20s, and all of them would look great across from Devonta Smith. To me, you use the 3 first-round picks on can't-miss players at other positions. Corner, linebacker, or safety, or pass rusher. I genuinely believe that the fact that the Eagles were able to get the pressure they did on Brady in that game was twofold. One part was because there were injuries on the line. The other thing that would help the Eagles is if they had more depth. The Eagles don't have enough bullets in the chamber. Let's be realistic. You don't have enough firepower, offense or defense. And I would just like to see them get more guys who have experience to help this team in the long run. Let's get to some of your guys' comments right now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you live in the Matt Black Kia studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. Also live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. And as always, you can DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. Over on the text board, Mike in Ocean City says, Josh, I was all about Calvin Ridley. I've changed my mind. Eagles need a big dude on the outside to dominate contested balls. I trade with Seattle and go get the misheard round world DK Metcalf from Mike and OC. Well, Mike, here's the problem. Metcalf ain't available. Okay. Ridley might be. That's the only reason why Ridley's being talked about. I don't see Seattle's going to do one of two things. They're either going to trade Russell Wilson and hit the reset button on the quarterback position, or they're going to over-invest in the offense, put more talent around Russ. And DK, trading him away is not going to solve that problem. I don't see them going and getting him, especially with probably what it would take asset-wise to get him. I think, like I said, Juju, that can happen. Allen Robinson's a big boy, okay? Allen Robinson is a guy who can go get contested balls. You know, when you're talking about a bigger player, Allen Robinson's 6'3", 210, for goodness sake. You know, so when you're talking about how big some of these guys are, even Juju is 6'1", 216. Those are some bigger guys, right? I could totally see those guys making a difference in this offense, Mike and OC. I just don't see a scenario where DK Metcalf is available if Seattle is serious about turning things around next year. Dan EHT says, got to draft Dean from Georgia. He's the real deal. Got to get a game changer on defense. Yeah, Nakobe Dean is a guy I would love to see in an Eagles uniform. I really do think that you need a game changer at linebacker. And he is a game changer. He is. I have now heard 2 draft evaluators, and I want to give it away, but I'm going to try to get another draft guy on a little bit later this week. So keep it tuned to Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN for that. But I've now heard multiple people. Emery Hunt was on a couple weeks ago talking about this. I've heard other people on other platforms talk about this. They say that Nakobe Dean can be to the Eagles, for example, what Roquan Smith has been to the Bears. If that's the case, you can't miss on that guy. I know some people love Lloyd from Utah. I love him too. He's a tackling machine. My only problem with Lloyd is that I'm a little concerned that he is the kind of guy that might be more scheme dependent, whereas Dean, I think he can fit any defense. I think Lloyd is the kind of guy that I don't know. The defense they ran at Utah is nothing like, for example, Gannon's defense. The defense they ran at Utah is this kind of like this variation of the Jim Schwartz defense, honestly. You know, it's a very up the field defense, you know, fill the gaps kind of D that allows the linebackers to get a lot of tackles. So, but I would love to see Nakobe Dean, Dan EHD. Also on the text board, Paul from Millville says, hey, Josh, we need to stay away from receivers in the draft. Slay is getting up there in age, and Steven Nelson is simply not good enough. 2 of our picks should be secondary help, and the third should be a pass rusher since our D-line is getting older. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, here's the problem with the corners, and that is, you know, and there's some really good corners in this draft. You know, Gardner, Elam. There's a lot of, you know, super talented dudes, Paul from Millville. The problem is that I don't know if you stay at the picture at now, you're going to be able to get all the secondary you want in one shot. You might have to make a decision to say, look, we're going to get a corner, a pass rusher and a linebacker in the first round, then go get a safety in the second, or maybe you trade up and go get a Kyle Hamilton, and then you lose the other pick to maybe get a corner or a pass rusher. Here's the thing. I'm starting to get a little sour on Karlaftis and Hutchinson. So I'm kind of hoping that somebody else gets those guys and you get Ojabo or someone like that as a pass rusher. I mean, obviously I'd love to get Thibodeau, but he's not going outside the top 5 at all. There's no way that's happening. So the corner thing I think is a must because, like you said, Slay's getting up there in age. Nelson was a stopgap measure. I think there's some really good corners in this draft, but there's corners in multiple rounds. So, there's a way you could actually look at it and say, look, you might have to make a decision between a corner and a linebacker at a certain point, or a corner and a safety at a certain point, and you might get another corner in like the second round, and you can still get a quality player as well. So the Eagles have a little flexibility there. We'll get to more of your comments. I see more messages coming in over at 609-403-0973. Also, we got messages coming in from James and Anthony on the YouTube channel. But coming up on the other side, before we get back to the Eagles talk, the Flyers are a dumpster fire. Why, and will it ever be fixed? Well, that's Kevin Durso coming in next here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Joel driving by Brian. Whoa! Windmill slam! And what a dunk by Embiid!
The Sixers host the Orlando Magic. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
Matt Blatt Nissan is looking to shed excess weight this new year, like $5,000. Yep, $5,000 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Titan Pro 4X.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Matt Blatt Nissan needs to move trucks. Every loaded 2021 4x4 Nissan Titan Pro 4X, $5,000 off MSRP. Plus, AJ the Trade Man wants to buy your vehicle today. Get cash on the spot or trade it in and drive a brand new 2021 Nissan Kicks SV. Just $299 per month lease. Or 2022 Nissan Sentra S. Just $249 per month lease with 0 security deposit and drive away with peace of mind, because only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So stop what you're doing and get $5,000 off new Nissans only at MattBlattNissan.com. Negative equity will be refinanced with the new vehicle. 36 months, 10,000 mile per year lease plus tax and $479 fee. Offers can't be combined. MSRP $60,140. VIN and N532176. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 2/5/2022. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
Have you ever noticed that when the afternoon light hits your floors, you can see everything, including dust?
So much dust.
And that floor dust gets kicked up into the air, compromising the quality of air you and your family breathe.
Eesh.
Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper is the fast and easy way to clean your floors, with ultra-thick pads that trap and lock dust before it gets in the air. Just a couple minutes a day,
And dust is gone.
Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper. Proud partner of the American Lung Association.
Hey, Coach, we need to score. What's the call? We're going to wing it. We're calling the pick. The pick? Yeah, the one, the only, the original Piccalilli Inn to score some of South Jersey's best wings and homestyle favorites. But, Coach, it's the middle of the game. Pre-game, post-game, during the game, the pick's wings, tails, and ears are always the right call. They're right on Route 206 in Chemung, or check them out on Facebook. Now, who wants mild and who wants hot?
The Piccalilli Inn.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
When you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get great savings and round-the-clock protection, which is as beautiful as looking your firstborn child in the eyes for the first time. Well, that's a bit much. Maybe it's more like looking your second-born child in the eyes for like the third or fourth time. Point being, the savings and round-the-clock protection are really, really magical.
Forced Metaphors, presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Hey, Carrie, we need that tax report by tomorrow. Hey, Bobby, give me that expenses.
For Hari's accounting firm, client growth is exponential.
We're a couple of accountants short.
He needs whip-smart accountants at whiplash speed.
Hey, so why aren't these receivables matching up?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
As a local bank with deep roots in Cape May County, Crest Savings Bank's directors, management, and employees are all part of your community. We are your neighbors, friends, and family. Our financial centers serve your personal and professional deposit, loan, and wealth management needs. We are thankful for the opportunity to serve our residents and visitors for over 100 years by providing small-town customer service with modern products. Crest Savings Bank. Banking is what we do. Community is who we are. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. So good, you gotta try it. With Straight Talk, you can get our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month. Now with unlimited high-speed data, plus 5 gigabytes hotspot data, and no contract, with nationwide 5G on America's best networks. Why pay a whole lot for your data when you can get unlimited for a whole lot less? Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly salty. Get 2 great tastes in one delicious bar. Enjoy a Nature Valley sweet and salty nut bar today.
Are you a Philly sports fanatic? Do you love to travel and cheer on our hometown squads across the country? If so, you need to check out Philly Sports Trips. Join your fellow Philly sports fans and book your trip with Philly Sports Trips to cheer on the Birds this spring at the 2022 NFL Draft in Las Vegas, where the Birds have 3 first-round selections. They have everything covered. Airfare from Philadelphia, great hotel on the Strip, draft night party, group events, and more. To check out how to travel with the pros at Philly Sports Trips, check out phillysportstrips.com/trips/Vegas Draft.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll go back to your guys' thoughts and comments on the Eagles, what they should or shouldn't do this offseason coming up in just a bit. Right here on 97.3 ESPN. We got tons of texts to get to and messages over the YouTube channel. But first, as promised, we're going to get into the Flyers a little bit because the Flyers, they can't seem to get out of their own way. I mean, they're going on a losing streak, and they start winning a little bit. They go on another losing streak. They start winning. So to get more into it, joining us right now, Kevin Durso, our Flyers Insider over at 97.3 ESPN.com. We'll ask him about what is going on with the Flyers because there's some significant news that came out that does involve the Fly guys today. And, of course, Flyers back in action tonight versus the Islanders. You hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Obviously, the Kevin Hayes news is one of the biggest news items with the Flyers right now. I thought what Yo said was very interesting. He basically played, then he went and had surgery, and now we're not going to see him play for, what, another 4 to 6 weeks, basically?
It's 3 to 4 officially, but honestly, I don't know what the timeline's really going to turn into. He's been out for prolonged periods all season long, and really this is just – it's an issue that is going to be around for the entire season. There's no way around it. It's that type of injury. It just lingers for most of the season. He's played through it the entire year as far as I'm concerned because you can see it. You can just see it in his performance on the ice. He's not skating as well as he could be. He's not able to do the things that, you know, the mind process is what you want to do, but he's not able to physically get it done. So he's not the same player we've seen even last season and definitely 2 seasons ago. So you kind of just what you saw is what you got from him because of the fact that he's trying to play through injuries. And I think that with this particular procedure that happened, this is another situation where it just finally caught up to him and he's not able to play through this any longer. So you have to pull him from the lineup and kind of go from there because honestly, you're starting to get into the territory where if these things start to pile up and it gets a little late in the season, it almost becomes advisable to shut a guy like him down for the year and just let him recover and know that he's going to be part of this team next year more than likely because he's got a contract that really isn't going to be moved. So I would say that you're going to start to approach that territory, not right away. If he can come back in 4 weeks, then sure, you've got a good chunk of season in front of you. You can try to play for the rest of the year. But if it starts to get really much further than that, you got to really start to think about where it goes. And he's having a year, you know, in this sense where he wants to be around the team because of everything that's going on with his health. You know, obviously what happened to his brother is an emotional situation for him, and he wants to have the comfort of playing the game that he loves to play. But sometimes right now he just really can't catch a break with his health. And unfortunately, it's in a spot where he's not able to get on the ice and do what he really wants to do. And that's certainly unfortunate, but there's not really much that you can do about it. He's just in this situation, and his health has been this way the entire year.
I mean, there's something to be said with the fact that some things are just out of your control, and it's not his fault or anyone's fault that his body is having these issues. You just got to deal with it and work through it. But I point out significant because to me, the Kevin Hayes situation is symbolic of the season. Kevin, every time you think things are turning around, things come back down and you hit back rock bottom, and this team now all of a sudden can't win games again. They're back playing the Islanders who just beat them up last night. What is the state of the Flyers as of January 18th, 2022?
That's a loaded question. I mean, it really just is at this point. I'm not going to jump the gun too early in where this week is headed because they've got a game tonight and they've got a game on Thursday to get there. But you're rapidly closing in on a second straight 10-game, or not second straight, but 2 10-game losing streaks in the same season. And we're not even halfway through the season yet. So there's a whole lot of road still in front of you in terms of games left to be played. But this team has no chance of making the playoffs. They're not in a position to do anything other than kind of, honestly, one of the questions left that's facing them for the rest of the year is how low do they finish in the standings? Because that's the direction they're headed. They're going the opposite direction of where they really wanted to be going. They're not trending at all in the right direction. They're not going to be where they wanted to be at the start of the year because at this point in time, we talked about this coming out of the holiday break and out of the pause for the league. They were 4 points behind Boston still, and you could make an argument that if things shaped up the right way, they could get back into that race. And in the time since, it's been 2-3 weeks since that conversation. They're now 13 points behind Boston, and Boston still has 3 games in hand on them. So it's not looking good, obviously. The standings are telling you exactly where this season's going. And your question now becomes, where do you finish in the standings? And what else do you decide to do beyond this? Who makes it through the trade deadline? Is there a management change ahead? What happens with the coaching staff? Because they haven't even replaced the assistant coach vacancy that they had after all of the decisions were made at the beginning of December. Now you have to decide, do you even replace that guy, or do you kind of go makeshift for the rest of the year because you don't have a lot left? You have a makeshift bench that has basically a development coach on it because of the fact that there's nowhere else that you can go right this second. You're going to kind of start from scratch with that next year. So they have a lot of questions to figure out. And on top of it, I mean, it just keeps piling up with things that happen off the ice too. I mean, it was no secret what happened last week when Bobby Clark comes out and tells you that none of the scouts wanted Nolan Patrick in the draft in the year he was drafted. That's another distraction. I was here on Saturday night for the game against the Rangers, and I wrote it in takeaways. I could have swore I was at Madison Square Garden because that's the way the crowd was. It was a Ranger-heavy crowd that was louder than Flyers fans when a goal was scored. So that's the state of the team right now, is that you can look at it from any angle you want to. You can look at it from a business perspective. You can look at it from an on-the-ice perspective. You can look at it from a future-building perspective. It's not good no matter how you shape it.
You brought up the Bobby Clark thing. You and I haven't talked on the air since that whole thing came out. And we don't need to rehash all the details because people can check it out at 97.3 ESPN.com. Yeah. We both wrote articles on it. That's how much there was to dive into it. But big picture, I think one of the things that's not understood about the Flyers situation, Kevin, is that what happened during the Hextall years set in motion some of the things you're dealing with now. And for better or for worse, some of the moves he made obviously didn't work out. Nolan Patrick being one of them. Some of them honestly did. The Braden Shen deal did bring you back pieces to get you certain players. So it's not like it was all bad. But you could argue in some ways that what the Flyers are looking at right now is an organization and a roster that is still feeling the after effects of that 4-year run.
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, to be honest, because it's not just the Hextall years. I mean, you're feeling the effects of things that happened a decade ago, to be honest. I mean, there are elements of things, something that doesn't involve any management decision or any coaching decision. Chris Pronger suffers a career-ending eye injury. Well, he was going to be your centerpiece of the blue line for several more years, and it forced you to change course. Now you don't have a number one defenseman as you get ready to move on from Chemo Tiemann and guys like that. So you draft guys like Ivan Provorov and think that can be your solution. And Provorov's had some good years, but he's had some really rough years too. So you kind of are paying for even some of those decisions. And it's not saying Provorov's a bad pick. It's you have to kind of every decision that you make has a later effect to it. You know, they were in a position in those early years under Hextall to make picks that were bolstering up the blue line. Then you get to a time when you really can look at forward and you kind of ignore the defenseman that's there, like they talked about. Like Cale Makar is obviously 5 years down the line. Cale Makar is the guy. But at the time, you had Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, Sam Moran, Shane Gostisbehere. You made a lot of picks on the blue line, so you're not thinking blue line at that time. You're thinking forward. And you're also thinking that Nolan Patrick is going to, at the very least, solve a top six problem. Maybe he's even your first line center down the road. Maybe he's the guy who takes Claude Giroux's role down the line. That's what you're thinking in that moment. And when it doesn't pan out that way, you start to get into a situation where you have to counterbalance that. It's why Kevin Hayes is here, because you had to sign another forward, specifically a center, to play top 6 minutes because Nolan Patrick wasn't taking that step yet. At the end of Hextall's tenure, you brought in a guy like James Van Riemsdyk because you needed to do something that kind of said, we're in it for the here and now, too. We're not just about patience. We're in it for the here and now. And that wasn't the best free agency class. And James Van Riemsdyk is a good player, but he's streaky and he's going to have cold stretches, and you're going to kind of wonder where the production is. So it's tough to kind of fill the voids that you need to in a lineup and to build the roster the way you want to when the move that you make at the time may seem like the right call, and then you're not able to see it come to fruition, and you kind of have to backtrack and try to make a recovery move to do it. It's kind of where the Braden Shen deal comes into it too a little bit, because you made that deal because you wanted to add a few more first-round picks because it still wasn't a perfect situation. You were still kind of building for the future there. And we can argue about what Shen has become in St. Louis and that he's won a cup and all that type of stuff. The reason why those comments stood out the way they did is because one of the other things that was mentioned that really wasn't talked about, I guess as much as none of the scouts wanted Nolan Patrick, was that Bobby Clarke said in his eyes, they have 2 or 3 guys that he believes are not going to make the NHL or have long NHL careers that were first-round picks. And some of those are easy to identify, but if he's looking at 2 or 3, I'm typically struggling to find a third unless he's actually pointing out that Morgan Frost is one of those guys. And that's an interesting take to have when you think that you got something for Braden Shen, but is he going to make it or not? And we have yet to see what he is, and we're trying to figure that out right now. We're trying to see what he is and how he fits in this lineup, but he's not taking the steps that they probably want yet. And really the only piece that you can really say you got from that deal is Joel Farabee's a part of this team for the foreseeable future probably. That's about all you got so far until you really start to see some big steps taken. And it goes well beyond those first-round picks that we can talk about that were probable misses at this point, because there are second-round picks that haven't panned out. There are guys who you're still waiting on to see something, and it brings into question everything that Hextall did as a drafter and to try to build team that way, that you're not seeing those players up and seeing the success translate to the ice, because now you're filling the void with guys like they did this offseason. Low-risk signings like Keith Yandel, Derek Brassard, who are not turning out to – Brassard's not able to get on the ice right now, and Yandel's not playing well at the moment. And it's turning out to be that way because you felt the need to bring in guys like that to make up for the guys that didn't make it to that step yet and take that leap to the NHL like you hoped they would.
Flyers Insider Kevin Durso joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers Islanders tonight, top of the hour. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates on the call right here on your home for the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers, 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, one of the names you mentioned in there that I'm going to pull out, and I'm only pulling it out because I feel like every time someone writes one of these speculative articles, his name is brought up. And I feel like every time that name is brought up, every Flyers fan is just screaming at each other, disagreeing on this guy. That's Claude Giroux. What is the realistic short-term, long-term future for the Flyers captain?
Well, short-term, you're going to write it out for right now because it's not really a time when you're going to see a lot of trades. It's just not the time to go out and make trades. That's not to say that it's something that shouldn't happen down the road or that you shouldn't be talking it out a little bit. It's just that there's just not a lot of activity, so it makes it harder to make a deal. But I think that at this point in time, unless Claude Giroux says he's not willing to waive the no-trade clause for anything, then I don't think Claude Giroux is here come March 21st. And it might be earlier than that, but certainly when the deadline hits on March 21st, he will not be a Flyer anymore if he decides to waive that no-trade clause, because he is going to be the most valuable player you have on the trade market this year. There is nobody else that you're going to be able to move on this current roster that's going to net you the return that Claude Giroux is going to net you. And you've got to start with something like a first-round pick. He's worth that still. He's got 29 points in 35 games. He's relatively close to still being a point-per-game player on a team that, quite frankly, is trending towards bottom 5 territory in the league. And if he's still doing that at that level, any playoff team out there would be thrilled to have a player like this, not even as your top guy, but as depth. He's going to play probably second line for a team. And imagine bringing that guy in to, say, a team like the Colorado Avalanche. Imagine putting Claude Giroux behind Gabe Landeskog, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, who's not even a forward, but I'm throwing him in anyway because he's a great player. Nazem Kadri, Andre Burakovsky, Tyson Jones. Like, I'm listing tons of names off for Colorado before I can even get to Giroux, because that would just make them even more of a loaded team come playoff time. So he'll have a market, and if he decides he wants to go off and try to win a Stanley Cup, then go off and try to win a Stanley Cup, because your best chance is not here. And I think that everybody is coming to that realization, and I don't think that they can argue at this point, as I mentioned, based on the way the standings look, I don't think they can argue at this point that you're that close to that last playoff spot anymore. That, there's a thought that if they were within a certain number of points, maybe they're still 7 back or something like that, that they might talk themselves into it at the deadline, still having a shot over the last month and a half of the season. I don't think there's any talking themselves into it. By the day, they come closer and closer to entering that bottom 5 in the league, and more teams behind them are catching up. So I don't think you can deny where they're headed, and I think that is going to lead to that being the big move at the deadline, it's not going to be just a big move for the Flyers. It's going to be a big move for the league, because you're not going to find a lot of players out there with his kind of credentials and that are on the move this trade deadline. You're just not. And I think that's going to be one of the big moves that a lot of teams out there are probably going to wait to see if it happens, because that could get the ball rolling on a lot of stuff that could happen at the deadline for many teams in the league. But that's going to be one of the biggest things that happens if he's willing to move on and waive his no-trade clause.
For more Flyers and NHL coverage, go check him out at 973ESPN.com. He's our Flyers Insider Kevin Durso. Follow him on Twitter at Kevin_Durso. And I believe this is another one of those ESPN Plus games, Kevin. So you are in the building, but for the rest of everybody else, you cannot flip over to the regular regional sports network. So if you haven't gotten ESPN Plus yet, or Hulu has live sports, you have basically 20 minutes. So, or you can listen right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, and that's free at least. So there you go. Kevin, appreciate you jumping on. Hopefully the game's not a blowout.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me on.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to you guys' thoughts and comments on the text board at 609-403-0973. We have comments from guys like Anthony and James on the YouTube channel. So we're going to get all of that and more coming up. So I've been talking Eagles, talking Flyers this hour right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Flyers hockey, 97.3 ESPN, and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free, thanks to First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the New York Islanders. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
Bennett Chevy says, we want your vehicle, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. We can help with expert appraisers on hand to help you get more, and you don't need to buy one of ours. Plus, if you're stuck in a lease, Bennett Chevy is an authorized lease return center for all brands. Looking to trade? Bennett will give you a minimum $7,000 for any clunker, no matter the condition or mileage. That's a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. And if you've got a good quality trade, you can only imagine how much more Bennett will pay. At Bennett Chevrolet, you always have options. Sell us your vehicle. There's no purchase necessary. Trade your old clunker. Get a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Bring us your high-quality vehicle and have our expert appraisers make you an offer you can only imagine. And if you're stuck in a lease, Bennett can help. So whatever your needs or whatever you choose, at Bennett you'll always get more because nobody beats Bennett Chevy. Egg Harbor Township and BennettChevy.com.
When you order your Walgreens prescriptions with same-day delivery, it's possible you'll experience some side effects. Side effects may include joy that you won't run out of your pills, and disbelief at just how crazy fast the delivery came right to your door. Get your same-day prescription refill today on the Walgreens app.
To use same-day RX delivery or 1 to 2 business day delivery, you must be opted into prescription status alerts. It will appear as an option if orders before that store's cutoff time for the day. Certain health plans do not cover or participate in same-day RX delivery. Check with your health plan for further details. Excludes California.
When we were ready to buy our first house, First Harvest Credit Union saw more than just our credit score. When it was time to replace our car, First Harvest's pre-approval helped us negotiate a great deal. When our family expanded, First Harvest helped our home expand along with it. When it was time to pay for college, First Harvest helped us save. Through all of life's twists and turns, there's one thing we can count on. First Harvest Credit Union is a better place to grow.
FirstHarvestCU.com. Insured by NCUA. Equal.
Rita, what's for dinner? You want ramen, they want pizza. Thankfully, there's something for everyone on the DoorDash app. For a limited time, get 50% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code ORDERNOW50. That's 50% off up to a $12 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you enter promo code ORDERNOW50. That's promo code ORDERNOW50. Subject to change. Terms apply. Get more from your neighborhood.
Trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Homeowners, no need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. Jenkins technicians are trained to do it all, so you only have to call one number, 609-641-6262. Jenkins & Sons has been on the job since 1949. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services, one call does it all. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com. That's 609-641-6262 or jenkinsandsons.com.
Jenkins Plumbing and Heating. We're always here for you. Jenkins Plumbing and Heating. We're always here for you. Jenkins Plumbing and Heating. We're always here for you.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Ready for an oil change? We can help get the right protection at the right price. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Daily Protection or Valvoline Max Life High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP oil filter for just $28.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Break out of the winter blues with a new pair of cowboy boots at Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters. Hot new styles have just landed that you won't want to miss. At Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters, you'll find the largest selection of cowboy boots, hats, belts, clothing, and more. Now through the end of the month, enter to win a free pair of Justin boots. No purchase necessary. You can count on friendly and knowledgeable service. Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters is a short drive from anywhere and is open 7 days a week or online at cowtowncowboy.com.
With Credit Karma, you get your credit scores for free. But what else can Credit Karma do for you? Well, say you want to get a new credit card, one with a great interest rate and no annual fees. Credit Karma can help you compare the best cards for you and show you which are the highest rated by our members. Plus, you can see your approval odds up front, so you can feel more confident and apply in just a few clicks. All thanks to Credit Karma and your credit scores. Get your free scores and find the right card for you at Credit Karma. Approval not guaranteed, subject to checks.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get back to your guys' thoughts and comments. A couple texts to get to at 609-403-0973. We're also live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. A bunch of messages to get to over there. And, of course, we are live also on the 973 ESPN mobile app. Thanks first. Thanks CLC. Again, we'll remind everyone, as I said earlier with Kevin Durso, Flyers Islanders tonight, 7 p.m. You can hear the game on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You cannot watch it on the regional sports network. You can only watch it on ESPN Plus and Hulu Live Sports. It will not be on regular television. So, you have one of two choices: to queue up the app or listen on 97.3. Those are the only two options for the Flyers game tonight. I told you once. I told you twice. If you're the person who's still looking for the game and you're ignoring me, that's your fault. Right? So that's all I got to tell you. It is what it is. All right, get some of the messages here. We'll bang out the text real quick. There's only a couple to get to here. One text says, Josh, I really like the Ridley idea. If we can get him for a second and a third, then use the first 3 picks on defense. Any idea why Ridley took a leave halfway through the year? Well, Ridley was injured half the year, Texter. Calvin Ridley had an injury this year. He took a game. I think it was only 1 game off, honestly, for mental health reasons. Similar with what happened with Lane Johnson. But he's been injured off and on the entire year. So that was my initial concern about him coming to the Eagles, which is I'm not comfortable taking on a guy who's damaged. That's me. I'm not saying he can't be healthy. I'm not saying he can't get better. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying I am personally not comfortable taking on players with injury histories. I have a very consistent track record on that front. So, seeing Juju out there for the Steelers the other day versus the Chiefs makes you a little more comfortable with him, but I don't love that either. I'm not a big fan of taking on anyone with an injury history because it seems like when they get to Philadelphia, things either get worse or they stay the same. Another text that came in at 609-403-0973 says the Eagles were 0-7 against playoff teams. Gonna need more than a receiver. Enough with the excuses. This team is flat out bad. Well, first of all, Texture, you're obviously an individual who picks and chooses stats that fit your narrative, because I can go through everybody's schedule and tell you that they weren't great against playoff teams. How many playoff teams did the Cowboys beat aside from the Eagles? How many playoff teams did the Packers beat? How many playoff teams did the Bucs beat? The Bucs lost to the Rams in the regular season. Now they got to play them in the postseason. Are they going to lose again to them? You can find stats that fit anyone's narrative. Remember that, folks. You can find a record, a number, a stat that fits your narrative. If the Eagles were flat out bad, how did they make the postseason? You know who's flat out bad? Jacksonville, Detroit. They're flat out bad. Okay? I'm not playing this game with some of you guys. See, you come at me with a stat and you just want to tell me the team is flat out bad. No. You can't be flat out bad and have 2 all-pro offensive linemen. Jason Kelsey, all-pro, first team. Lane Johnson, all-pro, second team. You can't be flat out bad if your starting corner, Darius Slay, is a Pro Bowl selection and your starting quarterback is the number 1 alternate at quarterback. The Eagles are not flat out bad. They're just not a Super Bowl contender. There's a difference. Now, if you can't see that difference, I don't know, maybe go back to hanging out with the girl who's crying over the Cowboys loss. Because that was ridiculous on Sunday. All right, let's get some messages over on YouTube. Anthony chimes in and says, the Eagles' 3 first-round draft pick, we have to hit 3 home runs with them point blank. Well, here's the thing, Anthony. You can hit on 2 of the 3 home runs and still be good. Not every first-round pick is a home run, honestly. You can go through every NFL draft and find guys for every team that's not a home run. So, to me, it's about finding guys that make sense. I think Kyle Hamilton fits the Eagles. I think a cornerback like Gardner would make sense for the Eagles. There's a lot of players in this draft I think that make sense for the Eagles. They might not all be all-pro players, but they all can be high-caliber players that help you put you in a position to be successful. James chimes in, says Calvin Ridley, book it, or Mike Williams. Well, here's the thing. Calvin Ridley, you got to trade for him. Mike Williams, I got to double check. What is his contract situation? I don't remember exactly if he is a free agent or not. Let me double check that really quick. Mike Williams. He's a free agent. Okay. Now, here's the thing with Mike Williams, though. He just made a lot of money. He's 27, turning 28. Do you have to spend a lot of money to get him? Or does he realize that because of his injuries and lack of consistent production, that he can't be, jumping on $15 million a year? M. David Dellinger Jr., that's a long name, but I got it in, says, where do you see Russell Wilson going? Denver, Pittsburgh, Houston, or Carolina? Well, first of all, M. David Dellinger Jr., I don't know if Russell's going anywhere. There's a lot of chatter coming out of Seattle by people who cover the team, people who know Russell Wilson and his people closely. It's sounding more and more like Russ isn't leaving. It sounds like that whatever happened last offseason was in the past. It's water under the bridge. Now, I'm not promising that he still could get traded, but as of right now, it sounds like he's staying. Where he could go, I think it comes down to Russ's no trade clause. I'm going to assume that Russ is only going to go somewhere that is going to be a winning team. So I think that throws out Houston or Denver at this point in time. Carolina is a conundrum. I don't really know what's going on over there. I feel like that organization has a lot of questions to answer on their roster depth. Pittsburgh is the albatross because they're the team that's in win now mode, but also is trying to get younger. So they'll be interesting to see what's going on there. Takeem chimes in, says Cedric Wilson and DJ Chark are cheaper options to Allen Robinson and Mike Williams. The problem with DJ Chark is he's also a guy who's coming off of injury. Cedric Wilson's interesting because he feels like a little like Alan Harper. Remember, he was the guy who was across from Michael Irvin back in the 90s. He got that super huge contract to go to the Bucks, and he was a total busteroni. Is Cedric Wilson a good receiver, or is he the beneficiary of being on an offense that has a super ton of talent around him? I'm asking the question. I don't know if there's a right answer to that. I'm just putting it out there. There's a possibility that Cedric Wilson may just be a guy who plays well with other talent. Like, oh my goodness, who was the guy with the Rams? He was with the Greatest Show on Turf, and then he left them, and then he went to the Lions on a fat contract. Whose number saying was it Saheem Hakeem? He was a phenomenal player as a 3 receiver with the Rams. He goes somewhere else, not the same guy. Jeff Bone and Pookie says, Jeff Bone. That's his old nickname, was Jeff Bone and Pookie on his YouTube. Now he changed to Jeff Bone. He says, what do we have to do to get Allen Robinson? Jeff, I think you need to sign him in free agency. I think it's that simple. Robinson is probably going to take a long-term contract. You're probably talking, again, I don't know the number, maybe a 4 or 5 year deal, maybe something in like the 12 to 15 million per year range. to get him. He's going to want top-tier money. Maybe not elite money like Amari Cooper got from the Cowboys, but he's going to want something maybe like a tier below that minimum. All right, thanks for all the messages that came in today. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Catch you tomorrow night at 6 here on 97.3.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription delivery making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply to Tier 1 generic drugs and select plans with